So good morning everyone. So we are going to discuss about the pharmaceutical microbiology, and I am P. Satyamonika, who is going to teach you or who is going to discuss you about the subject named as pharmaceutical microbiology. In that pharmaceutical microbiology, we are going to start unit 1 today. Now in our unit 1, we are going to discuss about introduction to microbiology. So what is microbiology? What is the definition of microbiology? What is the definition of pharmaceutical microbiology? What are the different types of microbiology or different branches of microbiology? What are the objectives of microbiology, as well as about the history and past contributions regarding the pharmaceutical microbiology? And also we are going to discuss about the applications as well as the scope of pharmaceutical microbiology in our class today. So let us start about what is microbiology. So what is the definition of microbiology? Microbiology is a science or is a subject which deals with the study of living organisms of microscopic size. So what is the examples for the microscopic living organisms? Microscopic size living organisms. So one of the examples which we knew already are the bacteria, fungi, algae, protozoa, as well as viruses. So when we say that viruses means eventually the first virus which we get today into our mind is COVID-19. So all these viruses or bacteria, fungi, algae, most of them cannot be seen with our naked eye, and also they are all of microscopic size which can only visible under the microscope. So the study which deals with all the living organisms which are of microscopic size like bacteria, fungi, algae, protozoa and viruses is called as microbiology. Now coming to the scientist named as Louis Pasteur. So he is the scientist who had coined the term microbiology. Now in the microbiology, there are of two types or two branches. One is pure microbiology and the second one is of applied microbiology. What comes under the pure microbiology and what comes under the applied microbiology? So in the pure microbiology, this deals with that means the pure microbiology, the name itself suggests that this microbiology itself deals with the study of that particular microscopic organism. Like for example bacteriology, that means that science which deals with the study of bacteria. Coming to the mycology, that is a science that deals with the study of fungi. Coming to the protozoology, deals with the study of protozoa, phycology, algae, parasitology, parasites, virology, viruses, and coming to the cellular microbiology. This is somewhat different from the previous studies. So cellular microbiology is a study of science which deals with the study of every single microscopic cell, not only the bacteria or viruses or any other microorganism, even in the animal cells or in living organisms or plant cells, we are going to deal with the study of every single individual cell. Okay. Now coming to the next science or next type of microbiology, which is called as applied microbiology. So in the applied microbiology, so what do we study here, or what comes under the applied microbiology? Previously in the pure microbiology we had discussed that the pure microbiology, the name itself suggests that it is going to deal directly or about the individual microorganism. So here this is not about individual microorganism, but here the microbiological science which we have said that what is the term microbiology means, so study or science that deals with the study of microorganisms, isn't it? So this study of microorganisms is conjugated or is applied onto another branch of science. For example, medical microbiology. So here we are going to apply this microbiology onto another branch of science which is called as medicine. And the next one is of pharmaceutical microbiology. So even in the pharmaceutical microbiology, so for example antibiotics or any other vaccines, serum, so all of these comes under the pharmaceutical microbiology, or even the sterilization processes or the sterile areas, aseptic areas, clean areas, all this comes under the pharmaceutical microbiology. So here we are going to apply the microbiological science onto another branch called as pharmacy. And the next one is industrial microbiology. So previously in the pharmaceutical microbiology also we had dealt with the clean areas, aseptic areas, right? So all these clean areas or aseptic areas or or sterile areas, all this comes under the industrial microbiology. And also we would also deal with the treatment of industrial waste by using the microorganisms. So microorganisms would allow the spoilage of substances, isn't it? So even that is a food materials, even that is a waste material, whatever that may be. So instead of dumping all the waste into rivers or lakes or environment, instead of polluting the environment, what we can do is by applying the microorganisms or by using the microorganisms, we can treat or we can digest those waste materials. So that comes under the industrial microbiology. And the next one is food microbiology. So here we are going to apply this microbiology, science of microbiology, onto the food. And the next one is soil microbiology. The microbiology is applied onto the soil. Similarly, microbiology is applied onto the water as well as air. And last one, where the microbial biotechnology means, so the study of the DNA or RNA of the microorganisms or the whatever that may be, viruses or bacteria or fungi, whatever that may be. So if we are going to deal with those DNA or RNA or genetic material, so all that comes under the microbial biotechnology. Now coming to the what are the uses of the pharmaceutical microbiology, and what is pharmaceutical microbiology exactly? So here, what is pharmaceutical microbiology? When these microbial concepts or when all these processes or all these techniques are applied onto the pharmaceutical industries, then we do call that particular branch of biology or that particular branch of science as pharmaceutical microbiology. Now coming to the objectives of pharmaceutical microbiology. So in the pharmaceutical microbiology, so we all knew that what is exactly antibiotic, or what exactly is a vaccine, or what exactly is a serum. So antibiotics are nothing but the drugs or substance, pharmaceutical substance, which is derived from the microorganisms and are used to inhibit the growth or to kill the growth of microorganisms, isn't it? So they are derived from the same microorganism and they are used to inhibit the growth of same microorganism. So this is an antibiotic. So while we are going to derive a pharmaceutical dosage from a pharmaceutical drug from microorganisms, we have to take care that they are not contaminated with the particular microorganism, or they do not contain more amount of dosage form, and they are prepared in a aseptic area. So all these conditions should be maintained properly, isn't it? Because we are going to use that on a particular patient, we have to take care that this particular dosage form, this particular drug which is derived from the microorganism is not affecting the patient in a negative manner. So in the pharmaceutical microbiology, we are going to ensure that the particular dosage form is safe as well as efficient. Okay. And now, the second objective is that, so coming to the disinfectant, the basic disinfectant is alcohol. So alcohol as well as the Lysol, which we are using commercially even nowadays, isn't it? So all these disinfectants are nothing but we are going to use, disinfectant is a substance which is used to keep a floor or keep a non-living objects sterile or free from microorganisms. Okay. So when we are going to prepare these disinfectants, we have to ensure that they are prepared by using a validated procedure. So what is meant by validated procedure? That particular process is completely safe or completely efficient without any error. We are going to prepare that particular disinfectant. So we have to maintain or we have to make sure that the particular disinfectant is prepared in a validated method or validated manner. The next one is evaluation of the efficacy of the disinfectants. Yes, we have prepared the disinfectant in a suitable validated method. That's okay. Now we have to evaluate that this particular disinfectant which is prepared in this manner is efficient. That means they are inhibiting the microorganisms or they are killing the microorganisms. Not only the not only that, they are inhibiting the microorganisms on the surface of the non-living substances, but we have to make sure that the microorganisms are not even grown in that particular disinfectant solution also, or suspension too. And now these can be done through the field trials by following particular trials. We can make sure that they are efficient as well as they are validated method, they are produced in a validated method too. Okay, now coming to the next point, which is the next objective of the pharmaceutical microbiology. So it offers a protocol and also the technique. So how to prepare these disinfectants or antibiotics or pharmaceutical dosage form in the microbiology. So we have this pharmaceutical microbiology offers us a protocol as well as a particular technique which we can follow to prepare those disinfectants or those antibiotics or pharmaceutical dosage forms, so that they are not contaminated and they are highly efficient too. Okay, and these we have to ensure that these are prepared in the control room. There no particular microbial contamination is allowed, like clean areas, aseptic areas, okay, sterile areas, etc. Now coming to the two scientists named as Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch. So Louis Pasteur is regarded as the father of microbiology, which we had already discussed in the previous slide. Now coming to the other scientist named as Robert Koch, he is considered as the father of medical microbiology, since he had discussed or he had discovered several number of antibiotics or several number of vaccines. So he is considered as the father of medical microbiology. Now coming to the history of the pharmaceutical microbiology. So what are the contributions that are made in the past in pharmaceutical microbiology? And the first scientist we have to remember is Antony van Leeuwenhoek. So Antony van Leeuwenhoek is a Dutch scientist who had first discovered or invented the microscope, and he is the first person to see the viable microorganisms, while they are nothing but living microorganisms, under the microscope which he had invented. Okay, so this is the diagram which he had invented. So these are microorganisms that he had invented or he had seen through the microscope. So what he had done is he had taken the scrapings from the teeth as well as the rainwater. He had collected those things and he had observed them under the microscope which he had invented, and he is the first person who had seen the living microorganisms. Now coming to the next scientist named as Louis Pasteur. So Louis Pasteur, we had already discussed in previous slides that he is considered as the father of microbiology. So he had made many contributions in this field of microbiology, and that's the reason he is considered as the father of microbiology. Now coming to what are the contributions he had made. So the first process is fermentation process. So we knew that when few fruits like grapes or citric acid containing fruits are fermented or subjected to microorganisms for longer periods of time, then they do get fermented and they would produce beer or wine, isn't it? So this process is first discovered by or first invented by the scientist Louis Pasteur. Now this proves that the microorganisms are themselves responsible for the spoilage of particular food items of any particular substance. Okay, now he had also demonstrated a gun cotton experiment. So gun cotton experiment is nothing but here he had filtered a particular he had taken a broth, chicken broth, into a vessel, and he had placed or he had covered that vessel with a gun cotton, which is nothing but wool cotton. Now he had allowed the air to pass through the gun cotton into the chicken broth. Now when the air is passed into the chicken broth, what happened? The microorganisms that are present in the air are retained on the surface of the gun cotton, and no microorganisms are allowed into pass through the chicken broth. Now after observing that for a few days, the chicken broth is not exposed to microorganisms. Since the gun cotton had retained all the microorganisms, the chicken broth which is present in the vessel isn't exposed to the microorganisms. So we haven't observed that it isn't spoiled. So what is the reason? So now he had taken this gun cotton and he had observed that under the microscope. So he had observed that the microorganisms are present on the surface of the gun cotton. That means they are retained on the surface of the gun cotton. So that is about the gun cotton experiment. So he had discovered that when only the microorganisms get into contact with the food substances or any other substances, only then they would process a spoilage condition. Now coming to the next experiment, he had also performed the swan neck flask experiment. So swan neck flask experiment is also similar to the gun cotton experiment. So in the swan neck flask experiment, he had taken the same chicken broth in the swan neck flask and he had placed that swan neck flask, exposed it to air. Since swan neck flask, the neck of the flask would be curved, no direct exposure of microorganisms are seen onto the chicken broth. But since a few amount of air would pass through the swan neck flask, so what happens, all the microorganisms are retained on the neck itself. So after a few days, when he had broken that swan neck, and observed that under the microscope, he had observed that what we had discussed in the gun cotton is seen in this also. So all the microorganisms are retained on the neck itself, the curved neck. Now coming to the next point or next discovery he had done is that different areas would contain different concentration of microorganisms based upon its particular area or environment, as well as the humidity, as well as the temperature. Based upon its environmental conditions, different area do contain different concentrations of microorganisms. Now coming to the next important process, this is called as pasteurization process. So in the pasteurization process, what happens is, so a particular food substance or especially liquid substances are subjected to sudden heat, that means 50 to 60 degrees for few seconds, only for few seconds, and again immediately they are subjected to immediate cool temperatures, so that the microorganisms which are present in the particular liquid substances may die. So this is called as pasteurization process. Previously, for killing the microorganisms, those liquid substances are boiled repeatedly. So what is the disadvantages for boiling is, so what happens, the proteins or the nutrients which are present in that particular liquid substances are getting denatured when boiled at high temperatures. So that is the reason the Louis Pasteur had discovered a particular process called as pasteurization process, where the liquids are subjected to sudden high temperatures for a few seconds and immediately they are subjected to sudden cool temperatures too. Now coming to the other discovery or other experiment or other invention he had made is that about the valence properties of a microorganisms. Valence property is nothing but the disease causing properties, and from this valence power of a particular microorganisms, he had also developed vaccines called as rabies or anthrax vaccine. Now this is about the scientist named as Louis Pasteur. Now coming to the next scientist, it is about the Robert Koch. Now, so we have also discussed in the second slide that Louis Pasteur is considered as the father of microbiology and Robert Koch is considered as the father of medical microbiology. So he is a German physician and he is the first to demonstrate the role of bacteria in causing a disease condition in a particular patient and a particular host where the microorganisms had been entered. Now he is the first one to isolate the bacteria Bacillus anthracis, and also he is the first one to isolate or discover the two bacteria called as Mycobacterium tuberculosis and another bacteria called as Vibrio cholerae, for which he had got the Nobel Prize too. Now coming to the postulates, we had said that in the previous slide, he is the first person who had discovered that the microorganisms are the responsible organisms which for a particular disease, isn't it? So to explain that particular point, he had demonstrated 4 postulates called as Koch postulates. So the first postulate means the microorganisms can be isolated from a diseased person or patient. Now this isolated microorganism can be, after isolated, they can be grown in a pure culture by performing or by giving it particular environment which is provided artificially for its growth. Now coming to the third point, so we have grown by providing an artificial environment, isn't it? So from this environment we can again re-isolate that particular, or we can reproduce that particular disease when they are injected into a particular host who is susceptible or who is previously of no disease, no particular disease. Now we can again dissociate the same microorganisms from the diseased person of the second host. Okay, so this is about the four postulates that has been discovered or discussed by the Robert Koch. Now coming to the different branches of microbiology. Now since we have already discussed that bacteriology is nothing but study of bacteria, this comes under the pure microbiology, and the mycology is nothing but the study of fungi. Protozoa is about the protozoology. Phycology again algae, study of algae, and this is about the parasitology, is about the study of parasites. Immunology is nothing but, this is about the study of antibodies. So antibodies are produced in a host when an antigen is infected. Antigens are nothing but the microorganisms, and when a particular patient or particular person is infected with a microorganism, that particular patient would be able to produce a particular antibodies to fight against that antigen. So those antibodies can be studied under the branch of immunology. Now coming to the virology, we can study about the viruses. Now coming to the nematology, the microscopic worms called as nematodes can be studied under the nematology. So these are the different microbiological branches. And coming to the next topic, so this is about the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells of microorganisms. So microorganisms are nothing but, we had said that they are of microscopic size, isn't it? So we cannot see these cells under with our naked eye. They can be only seen or visible under the microscope. So how does the two types of cells are present in the microorganisms, and what are the parts, or how does they appear under microscope? We are going to study about them. So firstly, these cells are of two types. One is the prokaryotic cell and the second one is eukaryotic cell. So in the prokaryotic cell, what is the how can we differentiate, or how cannot we get confused between the names? So the pro means, the meaning of pro means primitive one. Primitive ones are nothing but, so the previous or early ones. Now coming to the eukaryotic cell, the term eu means new ones. So what does this mean? New means, so new is nothing but the recent or evaluated cells, and the primitive ones or prokaryotic cells are the previous or early cells. So this is, if you can see the diagram, this is prokaryotic cell and this is the eukaryotic cell. So if you see this, we does not see any sort of cell organelles that are present in the prokaryotic cell, but the evaluated cell do contain specific cells or cell organelles where the specific functions are performed by individual cell organelles. For example, ribosomes. Ribosomes are used for the synthesis of proteins. Nucleus do contains the genetic material like DNA or RNA. So Golgi complex for the energy production, endoplasmic reticulum. So every individual cell organelle do contain or do have a specific function, where in the prokaryotic cell not that many number of cell organelles are seen. Okay. Now coming to the difference between the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So in the prokaryotic cell, what is the definition? So here in the eukaryotic cell, first coming to the eukaryotic cell, so what is the definition is that this is a cell that contains individual or defined nucleus. That means, if you can see in the previous slide, so this is the nucleus This is a defined nucleus, and here this is a genetic material. But here we does not have any sort of nucleus which contains or which constitute the genetic material individual. They are just present in the cell without any specific structure. But here the genetic material is present in a membrane bound nucleus. So that is the point we are going to discuss in next slide. The eukaryotic cell, the definition of eukaryotic cell is nothing but this do contains a particular defined membrane bound nucleus as well as other cell organelles. So in the prokaryotic cell you would not find any sort of nucleus bound nucleus, or you will not find that many number of cell organelles in the prokaryotic cell. And coming to the examples, so in the eukaryotic cell you will observe animal cells, plant cells, fungi cells, and also the protista cells. And in the prokaryotic cell the previous or primitive cells like bacteria and archaea are present. Now coming to the nucleus, so we had already seen that is present as well as it is membrane bound. Now coming to the prokaryotic cell, nucleus is absent, and even if the genetic material is present, that does not present in the nucleus, but that it is just present in the cell cytoplasm. Now coming to the cell size, this is a larger one, and coming to the prokaryotic, this is a smaller one. And the DNA replications, this would be seen in since many cell organelles are found, this would be highly regulated one, and this does not have any regulations. It would just produce the genome entirely at once. Now coming to the organism, it is usually multicellular, and this is unicellular. Now coming to the chromosomes, this is here more than one chromosome is present, here only one single loop of DNA is present. And ribosomes are larger in the eukaryotic cells, smaller in the prokaryotic cells, and the growth would be slower, here it would be faster. And coming to all the cell organelles, they are present in the eukaryotic cells and they are absent in the eukaryotic cells. Now coming to the defining conditions like ability to store the hereditary information or the cell walls, plasma membrane, cytoplasm, all these are present in the eukaryotic cells, and coming to the prokaryotic cells, they are absent. So this is about today's class. We are going to discuss about the scope and importance in the next class. Thank you.